Affairs and Budget Committees. That Budget Committee is going to be busy now that we're moving into the reconciliation phase of this. But before you can do that, the government shutdown actually has to be averted. We saw what happened in the House yesterday, but do you think it's going to be as easy as, all right, we're done, we're wiping our hands of it?
No, I don't, because you saw almost every Democrat vote for, vote together against the Republican partisan spending bill. And that's what it was, Allie. It was not a continuing resolution, which essentially just gives more time for the two sides to negotiate. This was a Johnson, Trump, Musk partisan bill. It cuts domestic spending, a lot of priorities of the American people.
Is that just because it goes back to fiscal year 2024?
No, it actually adjusts both defense spending and non-defense discretionary is what we call it. But think of things like veterans affairs. Think of things like air traffic safety, food safety, education, all of these different things. And what it does is it embeds in the bill the authorities for Trump and Musk to continue to slash all of these agencies the way that they're slashing it. And Chip Roy said that out loud. Several Republicans have said this essentially gives us the control we've been seeking, because the courts have been stopping some of this because they're taking over congressional appropriation and authority. So that's why Democrats stayed united under Hakeem Jeffries' leadership yesterday. I hope that the Senate Democrats do the same thing. Patty Murray and Rosa DeLauro, the two top Democrats in the House and the Senate for appropriations, have introduced an actual continuing resolution, just a short-term 4-week continuing resolution that would keep the government open. But to essentially say you want Democratic votes or you need Democratic votes, but then pass your own partisan bill is not the way things are done around here. And if there is a shutdown on Friday, it will be entirely on the Republicans. And that's why you saw J.D. Vance talking to the House Republicans yesterday and saying, if there's a shutdown, it's on Republicans, because the House, the Senate, and the White House are controlled entirely by Republicans.
So you're saying you hope that Senate Democrats do what House Democrats did, which is stand together, oppose this. But do you have a fear that if the government shuts down, there's not some people in Washington who don't think that's a bad thing? What's the posture for getting out of it? Because that's the fear that I keep hearing.
Yeah, I'm not afraid that Democrats are going to be blamed for it. Republicans are going to have to take the blame for it. But how do we avert it? We pass a 4-week, short-term continuing resolution, and the two sides continue to negotiate. Look, Rosa DeLauro and Tom Cole on the House side and Patty Murray in the Senate and her Republican counterpart were actually having conversations. Susan Collins, exactly. We're actually having conversations about how to agree on a funding bill that could keep government open and protect programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid from the kinds of cuts that Elon Musk and others on the Republican side have threatened. And they were pretty close. So you can't now say, well, we're just going to pass our own Republican spending bill, partisan spending bill, and Democrats are going to have to vote for it. So there is a solution, a very short-term continuing resolution that keeps funding levels the same, that allows the government not to shut down and allows us to reach a bipartisan agreement.
It does not sound like that is the path that Congress is taking, at least not yet. We'll see ultimately what the Senate ends up doing. But when you take all of this in tandem, the volatility in the markets over a potential shutdown, over tariffs, over the way that Trump is sort of conducting the literal business of this country, does that give Democrats an opening on the economy, an issue that has vexed them and eluded them in 2024, 2022 and beyond? Do you see an opening there?
There is a huge opening.
What does that look like?
I mean, right now, 2/3 of the American people are really upset that Trump has done absolutely nothing to lower their costs. Remember, this is the candidate that said on day one, I'm going to end inflation, I'm going to lower costs for the American people. And instead, what he's doing is standing in front of a Tesla dealership and boosting prices for, profits for Elon Musk. We have done zero, nothing that lowers costs. And in fact, the things that Trump has done on tariffs, sending the markets into volatility, the increased prices that people are already seeing on groceries, cars, et cetera, combined with eliminating bureaus like the independent agencies like the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, which put money back in people's pockets. He's doing nothing to lower costs, and people are seeing that.
Can I ask, you're a student of affecting change, changing the political Overton window, shifting it on policy and ideas. How do you think your party is doing right now as the opposition party? Would you give them a grade What do you think the conversation is going to be?
I think it's difficult to give a grade right now because I think there's some things we're doing very well, and there are other things that we could use some work on. You know, I think it is not, it's not a bug, it's a feature to flood the zone. And this is Project 2025 on steroids. So we did prepare in some ways, and I would actually give attorneys general across the country and states across the country, organizations that have been preparing lawsuits to challenge some of what we saw in 2025 in Project 2025. A lot of credit. But I would also say that in Congress, the more we stay united as Democrats, the way we did in the House last night, the more successful we will be, because Republicans have to show that they can govern. Last year, when we had divided government, and Democrats controlled one chamber but not the other, and we had the presidency, we had to be much more concerned about stepping in. But this is on Republicans. If they can't govern and they want to cut Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and all of these programs that Americans depend on, they're going to have to do it on their own, and people need to see Democrats standing up and fighting.
It's going to be interesting to see the conversation around how to stay unified. You're going to the Democratic retreat. We will touch base after that. I'm very interested in hearing. Until then, Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington State, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Allie.
Stick around, though, because earlier in the show, we ask our viewers, why are they awake? And Bobby emails. He says, on my Wednesday commute flight from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida to Washington, thanks for always preparing me for the crazy day of a Washington Wednesday. People need the prep.
Yeah.
I mean, can't blame them. There's a lot of headlines out there. Nicole is up, she says, because her fiancé called to say that he might have accidentally thrown away his medicine into the garbage. No, now she gets to go digging for it before the sanitation guys show up later this morning. That's love.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. And Nana says her dog woke her up for breakfast. Well, as their right is to do, sending along this photo of Miss Jersey in her Easter dress. That's precious. I love dogs in clothes, don't you?
I do.
Is that a little
I
odd?
do.
I don't know. Coming up next, we're going to dig into President Trump.